Respected Director, Dr. C. Anandaramakrishnan, Chief Guest of today's function, and Himanshu Patel, Chair Professor, IIT Bombay, Professor Rohit Srivastava, Dr. U.S. Harish, Head Human Resources and Academic Division, Heads of Divisions, colleagues, visitors, students, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and good morning. From fundamental research to groundbreaking advancements, science lights our way forward. National Science Day is celebrated every year on February 28 across the country to commemorate the discovery of Raman effect by the eminent Indian physicist Sir Chandrasekhara Venkat Raman. Raman effect was discovered in 1928 and won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1930. The theme for this year's National Science Day is Empowering Indian Youth for Global Leadership in Science and Innovation for Viksit Bharat. The Viksit Bharat concept will be complete when we promote a culture of scientific innovations using indigenous technologies for holistic well-being. CSIR-NIIST is celebrating the National Science Day today to pay our humble tribute to Sir C.V. Raman and to acknowledge
Usher, the recognized at the young age by the government of India, is the one such example how people are looked at your research. If you look that journey of Rohit, so many people got benefited. Even just he said 2 days back he floated one company. It is in paper already valued more than 100 crore. Can you imagine the age? He has already more than 7 or 8 companies. Yes, IIT is allowed to do that, and he has that system and so many system biomedical equipments and biomedical testing kits. He made it and it is in the market, and more than 150 startups he handhold it. And that publications, you look at his publications, more than 300 papers and all the things I'm not going to tell, but what I wanted to tell the youngsters, it's the best example of one how you wanted to decide your career progress. At the age around 50, he has come to that level of the way contributed the biomedical sciences and biotechnology. Once again, thank you so much, Rohit, being with us today. I think he will explain how he has transformed that landscape of biomedical itself. That's what I requested you give me some idea. We are also wanted to move on to that direction, especially our innovation center. We started in the Mumbai, and our new innovation center is going to be inaugurated. We wanted to handhold more startups. We wanted to support more, even though we can't have the stake on the company, but we wanted to support the way in which our IIT Mumbai is doing. That's better than other IITs, including the Chennai. That's what Rohit is telling. But we want your input to make. We are doing very good. I showcased our technologies, but how make business out of our science? That's what today we are expecting from the Rohit to tell us how we can make it that gap between the lab to the land. And one of the great personalities, the country, Dr. Sir C.V. Raman. He is born in November 7th, 1888 at Tiruchirappalli, very small town in Tamil Nadu. He's the teacher father. The young age itself, he has shown what his commitment. His schooling has done in the Tiruchirappalli. Then he is moved to Visakhapatnam. Again come back to Chennai, Madras Presidency College. He completed his honors in the physics at the age of 16. Can you imagine 16 years? He completed his honors degree in the bachelor. Then he continued his post-graduation. Then he went to UK. Then the same day, 28th, what Harris has mentioned, he invented Raman effect. Today, whatever we are talking, without spectrophotometer, you can't do any research, either physics or the chemistry. We are talking about today microplastics. You wanted to find out the microplastics present in the things, you need a Raman spectra or surface enhanced. What Maiti is using the surface enhanced material method only for our cancer reduction. The basic fundamental as invented by the Raman. Not only in India, any lab, anywhere else, without Raman, you can't do science. That is the importance of the Raman effect and the person what he invented. When he got the Nobel Prize, he said, I spent less than 200 rupees to invent this one. Maybe he was joking, but look at that way he has taken. He has not said, yes, I need this facility, I need that equipment, then only I will do research. The commitment, the passion, what he wanted to do it, that is the important for one to pursue the science. That's what he transformed. Even this many years after, still we are relying on the science what he has done. So we have to think ahead of the time. That's what our thought process has to go. That today when nation celebrates Science Day, the whole world is looking at Raman everywhere if you see that. But after that we are not getting the Nobel Prize for the science. From the Indian origin they are getting, but India itself who worked we are not able to get. Somewhere something is missing, but we need to look very closely where the missing link. What is the contribution of our GDP? Maybe 0.7% of the total GDP we are contributing. Lower than the, if you look at Israel, 4.2% or the US, but still we produced better. If you look at that comparison, the 2017 to 23, that 5 years gap, the before 5 years gap of our research output, it is increased 45%. And we published almost 1.3 million research papers. Then that period, the next is US 1.4. Very soon we may overtake the UK. But UK is a very small country. They can produce 1.4 million. We are producing the 1.3 million. Look at the top two. 4.5 million is China. 4.4 million papers published by the US. We are ranked 4th. But look at our impact of the research in terms of the citation. Our citation impact is 8.9 million, which is 9th position. There only issue comes. If people are not citing your paper, people are not referring your research, what we are doing, somewhere something is missing. Number of paper one side, the quality of the paper, the quality of the research, the area of the research. That you can calculate field impacted citation. Recently that evolved in the scientific community. That also we improved a lot. It was 0.85. Now it is the 1.08. Above 1 is good, but still we need to push it still further. So we need to identify which are the area is coming new. So we need to pitch into that. Then we have the impact. If you split into the natural science, medical science and all, still we are not doing good at medical sciences. There China and US is doing really well. And another upcoming area is AIML. AIML is not only for the software engineers who knows that big data analysis. No, all the science, across the science, everyone can use artificial intelligence or the data analysis or the machine learning. Now that is the futuristic way of looking into that. Without that, now science is not going to be completed. That we need to take as quick as possible, adapt into the system. Yes, you made the data comes from the experimental. How are you going to validate? How is the projection? If you have the another way of looking into that using AI way, that's the way we need to think beyond what we are right now is doing on it. 2 days back, Dr. Saraswat, NITI Aayog member of Science and Technology, chaired the meeting, called all the team directors of CSIR along with the DG CSIR. We had a long discussion how to make CSIR 100. It is not India at 100, CSIR at 100 when we are going to 100 year of CSIR, how we wanted to position ourselves. The discussion, ideas, we floated the ideas. But Saraswat sir very clearly stated two things you have to take it. One is that what is that import of the material is coming to India. We need to substitute as quick as possible. That is the one area CSR has to look into that. Yes, it's a really important way of looking into that. That's what CSIR-NIIST already we started thinking about. BrahMos, we are not able to get some component supposed to given by other country. They approached, DRDO approached us, we are working on it. What our material science team is working on aluminum silicon composites, we are working on it. VVM, we are working on it. But we should not stop only for this few list. We need to align which are the import technology we can make in India itself. Talking about Viksit Bharat, we thought that it's not going to be possible. Then Saraswat said one more thing what I earlier said. We need to think how best can put AI/ML into all the science, especially biological science and the material science. Along with that, you make it the research that can reduce the trial and error method, the prediction level. That's how best we can align. Maybe next 1 year we can think about most of the work what we have, how we are aligning to that. We need to strengthen that area of research and also biomedical and biotechnology. That new terminology of bioeconomy is coming. So DBT is already has allotted huge money. We are also in the process. Hope we can also part of the country's transformation and the bioeconomy. In this day, we wanted to celebrate science, the success of the science, and CSIR-NIIST already making the mark in the Indian scientific fraternity. This is not enough. Whatever we publish 300 plus paper or above 5 impact factor, yes, we are good at in CSIR. All the indicators, if you take it, we are doing very well. The external cash flow already told this year is increased to almost 5 crore compared to the earlier 1 point something. It's a really good number of technology transfers is increasing. But one missing link is number of startups. So that once our new innovation center operation at our main campus and the Mumbai campus, how we are going to handle that, we have to think. All our scientists has to align with that. How are you going to put your thought process for the business model, the science to the business, science to the market, science to the land. That is the future of that. Hope we will able to do join hand with everyone. Once again, thank you so much for everyone part of the today's National Science Day Festival. Thank you so much, Rohit, for part of this day.
Thank you, sir. Professor Rohit Srivastava is currently the Himanshu Patel Chair Professor at the Department of Biosciences and Bioengineering at IIT Bombay. Professor Srivastava started his career as an Assistant Systems Engineer at Tata Consultancy Services, Mumbai in 1999. With a Master's and a PhD in Biomedical Engineering from Louisiana Tech University, the United States, he joined IIT Bombay in 2005 and rose the ladder to become a full professor in 2015. He headed the Department of Biosciences and Bioengineering during a 3-year term from 2019 to 2022. Professor Srivastava is a highly recognized researcher for his transversal research in the field of biosensors and affordable point-of-care diagnostic technologies for rural and maternal health care. He has published more than 300 peer-reviewed articles with an H-index of 49 and has more than 85 Indian and US patents granted in his name with an additional 150 plus patents, trademarks and IDF applications. He is an elected fellow of the National Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Engineering, the Royal Society of Chemistry and the Royal Society of Biology. Professor Srivastava has been recognized by several awards, including the Vigyan Shri Award in Technology and Innovation 2024, Professor H.H. Mathur Award for Excellence in Translational Sciences 2023, the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize in Medical Sciences 2021, INAE Abdul Kalam Technology Innovation National Fellowship 2019, Shri Om Prakash Bhashin Award for Excellence in Health and Medical Sciences 2018, that is considered the highest honor in India for health and medical sciences, the Nasi Reliance Industries Platinum Jubilee Award in 2018 and so on. Professor Srivastava has co-founded and set up more than 10 startups and mentored more than 25 medtech startups in the last 10 years on innovative solutions for Sir, we are fortunate to have you today with us as our chief guest. It would be our honor to invite you for the National Science Day Lecture 2024. Something has to change. No? So by the time it's getting started, let me first thank Professor Anant for calling me. I've always called him Anant. I've never, I don't know why. It will get, yeah, idhar mein hoga, split screen, yeah. So once again, thank you very much, Anant, for the invite. Thank you everybody for attending this. I hope it will get sorted out now, hopefully. It's always going on the Slack. Swap displays तरह ये जो है ये second one or third one ना. So once again, apologies for the delay. Thank you very much for the invite, Professor Anand. Thank you to the team for the excellent hospitality. Thank you for attending this talk. When Anand called me and asked me to give this talk, I said I will try and fix the schedule so that I can come and enthuse you to do what we have been able to do and possibly replicate what we have been able to do at IIT Bombay. And I'll show you the story what has happened in the last 20 years. So I come from the Department of Biosciences, Bioengineering, and I have titled this talk Tech-Enabled Affordable Healthcare. And my focus is on hoping that I can enthuse all the youngsters here to start thinking towards taking up translational science as their career so that they can then move this country towards Viksit Bharat, and that's what we are hoping that will happen in the next few years. So for people who are not aware of IIT Bombay, most IITs have a similar ecosystem. Why I show this slide is because by myself I'll not be able to do much, but the moment I start collaborating with these different blocks that you see in this slide, I will get a lot of output. Why? Because I can now tap into expertise that sits in somebody else's lab and is now available for me. So if you look at the dark blue versus light blue, you'll see engineering versus science departments. Then you'll see some of these green blocks. These are different labs at IIT Bombay. And most of these labs are translational labs, is the reason why I have put them. So some facility available in my lab, now I can actually go and use something else in somebody else's lab. What you see in the middle is our translational ecosystem, and this is something that I will emphasize on, in the sense that unless you have a good technology transfer office which files patents for you, unless you have a good entrepreneurship training program in the institute which trains students like you to think translation and set up companies, unless you have your own labs in which you work and work on such translational technologies, you're not going to end up in a business incubator. So that's the flow that happens, and typically once they end up in a business incubator, then they can graduate out of the business incubator and move in a research park. So IIT Bombay has that entire ecosystem with it. Important thing is that you get all these collaboration with engineering institutes, with medical institutes, with industries, which is already happening at your institute. But in the end,
What you do is you add to the capacity in the country. Of course, your institute, you're adding capacity, but you're also adding to the country. But you're adding these high value jobs, creating technologies which are useful to India. And as Anant mentioned, we are trying to see how we can reduce the imports that the government is struggling with in many of these areas. So one of them is healthcare, and this is what I'm going to focus on. So I come from biosciences, bioengineering. I wanted to show this one slide to you just to show you that we are a small department, about 30 faculty, but we have 300 PhD students registered with us, and we have about 100 master's students, and then about a similar number of, I guess, staff. So about 500 to 550 people in that one building, including faculty and staff, possibly about 600 people in a building. But look at the output. In terms of output, 15 of our faculty have now set up startups, and there are people who have set up multiple like me. None of these, of those 15, 14 of them have set up one startup, but our lab has set up multiple. Now I'm encouraging people to do that, because with one startup you can possibly look at one vertical. With multiple startups you can look at multiple verticals. Of course, we have all these different academic programs running in the department. We have papers being published. We have grants coming in, but I'm focusing on that one side corner. One of the really big success from our department is the CAR-T therapy. Many of you know the therapy. Many of you know about the technology. It came from the US. Today, in the US, it costs about $500,000. In India, Professor Rahul Purwar's company has brought it to an affordable 30 lakh rupees. And this is something that has propelled his company from being nothing 3 years back to being valued at 1,000 crores today. And Rahul holds 20% in that company today. So imagine, a faculty holding shares in a company and then being valued at 200 crores himself. He's also adding value to the ecosystem. Now, I always show this slide in anything just to set the context. Why I work in healthcare. Why do I wanted to shift gears and start looking at healthcare domain as a whole, not just one aspect of biomedical engineering, because that's my training. But then I wanted to learn with all of my students, and that's the reason why I started taking many students in my lab. At a point, I had 27 registered PhD students in my own lab. So far in 20 years, I've already graduated 55 PhD students from a single lab. So why did I do that? Because I wanted to learn with you guys. Now, if you look at that one slide here, you'll see the major part that comes out of this slide is that in India, even today, we spend 70% of the healthcare costs out of our own pocket, and only 30% is spent by government spending, which means that any solution I have, the problems can be many, and the problems are there. I'll talk about problems later, but the solutions have to be fitted to address these problems, and your majority of the solutions have to look at affordability. Even if you have a cost cutting, that itself is an innovation. You may not get a patent around a technology. I'll show you technologies in which we never got a patent, but then that became a commercial success because it is off patent, everybody knows about it, but the moment you do a cost cutting, you have a technology in the market. So I started looking at some of these problems, looking at that we have very few doctors registered per patient. In an entire country, we have only 1 million registered doctors. Imagine that. And the fact is that if I can now start thinking about remote monitoring, now I can address that one need. But how do you do remote monitoring and then have your technologies go all the way to rural healthcare? And that is our focus for many of the things that we've done in the past. We have many technologies that came out of our lab. That circle that you see is our lab's products. Started out with a big technology, which reached the market. I'll talk about some of those. But important thing is I did not stick to one area. Remember, I have electronics engineering as my background, biomedical engineering as my training, but I can also do digital health. I can also do simple sort of drug delivery devices. I can also do microfluidics. I can also do point of care or maternal health monitoring, and so on and so forth. So if you look at my expertise, I'm possibly expert in only one domain, but I have learned at least 10 or 15 different domains from students like you. And that's what I keep saying to my students, bring a different area in my lab so that I can also learn, and possibly that technology can reach the market. And I'll show you many. So we've got many recognitions. Recognitions come to the lab, to the students, not to me as an individual. I always say that I stand tall because I stand on the shoulders of those 55 PhD students, maybe those 100 master students, maybe those 200 interns that have worked in my lab. But I don't claim any of those awards as personal awards. I say that's given to an institute, that's given to the lab, that's given by the country to recognize innovation in the country. Many things have happened, but most importantly, many of my students set up startups. This started way back in 2010. I joined IIT in 2005. In 5 years, I had a student who had already set up a startup, and we had started thinking translation, and that was Biosense. I'll show you products from Biosense. But as we moved along that chain, in 10 years, we had set up multiple startups, at least 20-25 student-led startups. And these were all doing well. Some of them folded up. Of course, you'll never get 100% of them to do well. At least 50% did not do well. But 50% that went on to do well are still doing well. And we'll show you some of those. Important thing is that what became commercial success actually paved the way for future products to follow. And these were some of those commercial successes, which gave every award that a country can give a lab, because the country saw that somebody is trying to do something different in the country. And that's what I keep urging the youth to do. Think different. Think if you can do one technology in your lifetime, every student does just one technology, in 5 years we'll be free of imports. And that's my vision for the country. Started out with UCheck in the center. We were the first lab in the country to use mobile phone as a diagnostic tool and put it with approval in the Indian market and the US market. And it was also an FDA approved product. So imagine how much pain we had to go through. But the students' company did all that. We had our own glucometer. Again, like I said, the glucometer did not get us any patent, but we put that strip and glucometer in the market. The strips were costing 5 rupees in the Indian market in 2013. And even today, you cannot buy strips which are less than 18 rupees in cost. So the problem with such innovations are that you can possibly do them at one scale, but the moment you want to go national scale, and this is where we struggle, that there are companies which are going to come and gobble you up. That's what happened with Biosense. And this is a product that is extremely unique. With the conjunctiva of the eye, we can tell you your hemoglobin levels. It is such a unique product that it was using futuristic technology in 2013 and 14. So imagine technologies like this. Of course, we were approached by many companies. Finally, we had no say over them, and the students succumbed to money and of course pressures. They sold their company to Tulip. They sold their company further on to a multinational. I won't name that. But the fact is that they are no longer part of the Indian ecosystem, which means that we lost technologies which could have made some mark for India. Why I'm giving this story is I'll come shortly. So some student-led startups, and then I'll tell you why I've shifted gears to my own. Of course, Biosense is my first student-led startup from 2010. Went on to put several products in the market, and many of these made commercial sense for the company to move forward. The second is Neodox, and Neodox used similar technology that we were doing with making these strips that you see. If you just go back one slide, the one in the center is UCheck, uses these 10 parameter urine dipsticks, which we could make in our lab. We could make at scale in a facility in Kochi, and which is right nearby. So we could do all that, but we could now start thinking what other parameters could we put into that. And we came out with this test card, which could also look at 3 or 4 more parameters in urine. Not just the 10 standard parameters, but then looking at albumin, creatinine, looking at some deficiencies that you could see with urine. And this became a commercial success overnight, because you could take an image of the strip and that data was analyzed. Everything was done in AI. Data was analyzed, sent to both places, to the patient, to the doctor. And it was creating such a big wave that within 6 months, 9 months of setting up this company by a student of mine, the company was already valued at about 50 or 100 crores. This is a success story for them. They are now going forward with their second raise, which will then value them at about 500 to 600 crores. There's another company, and this is my own PhD student who graduated from my lab. I hold shares in all these companies because IIT allows us to do that, and there's an ecosystem which allows us to be part of the company so that we can also get some benefit back to the institute, to the country. Again, a wonderful example of a company which looked at making products and putting them in market for rural healthcare monitoring. And this is a maternal, neonatal, child health. This is an area which is ever growing. It's not ever going to stop. So if you have more and more products in this area and you have more and more reach for this country, you will never see this going down. They came out with their two different products. This is a digital fetal and labor monitoring device, which is reached, as you can see, about 500,000 mothers. But most importantly, they have now reached nearly all the states in India and 7 countries. This is a huge win for this country, is because technologies that come out of a lab, go on to a startup, are able to reach not just this country but also other countries. They have another product, and this came out of an Abdul Kalam technology innovation fellowship that we did in our lab, where we can now do health screening of would-be mothers, and we do that over the 3 trimesters, 1 screening every trimester, and we can then flag high-risk pregnancies. All you're doing is checking the regular standard parameters, and this is all in a kit that an Anganwadi worker goes home to home. But most importantly, all that data goes on a cloud, gets analyzed, and gets flagged if there is high-risk pregnancy being seen. So you can think of diabetes during pregnancy, you can think of protein coming in the urine during pregnancy, kidney problems, and so on and so forth. Everything is through an app, and the Anganwadi worker carries this. Look at the reach, 1.5 million women in this country. If that is not success, then what is? And this is a student-led success. Again, let me remind you, these are all students who came out of IIT Bombay, of my lab, set up companies, are now doing commercial products which have reached the market, which have reached patients, and are making an impact for this country. At some point, I shifted gears. Why I showed all this is, even though I hold small percentages, I hold advisory shares in these companies. These are student companies, so I could hold only advisory shares. I thought, let me do something different and show the country that I can think differently, and exactly how Anant thinks. I always say that I take inspiration from people like Anant to do something different. So I shifted gears and I started putting myself as co-founder in companies. Why? Because one, I wanted to take those products to market, but I also wanted to have a say in the company, in the vision of the company, in the growth of the company, and whether I wanted that company to be there in India, whether I wanted it to be taken up by somebody else. I don't want that to happen again. So I said, I will come on as shareholder. I will take additional responsibilities. Now everybody said I am a fool because, how much can you do? You can do academics, you can do research, you can do translational research, you can help mentor companies, you can be in some of these committees. Can you really run companies? Maybe not. I said I'll take up the challenge. So let's look at some of those. The first company we set up was about 3 years back. This is EffectMed Private Limited, with 3 of us as co-founders in the company. And Professor Jayesh Pillare is chemical engineering. Kunal is a PhD student from our labs. And there was another guy who had left, so he could not become part of the company. But we had 2 products, and this is important for you to look at it from the materials point of view. So we have a bone graft material, which can be used in many of these maxillofacial injuries, where you put a graft material and it lets the bone regrow. Of course, you have factors in them, and you have a resorbable screw material. Now, both these products, remember, it has to come from deep science, and this is why we are celebrating this day. Remember that? And that's what Anant said. This is Science Day, which means that we have to factor science first before we move to technology. And that's the reason why I show you this, and I show you the science behind it. I will not spend too much time on it, but if you have questions, please feel free to email me. Now, both these materials that you see are PhD work of 2 different students. went through 5 years of work, went through multiple funding, came to a level where we felt that it has impact, it could have impact, so we set up a company. Today, you will not believe it. Day one, when we set up this company, we raised about $1 million from a pharma company. I'm talking dollars because everything is valued in dollars. This was 8 crores. But 8 crores valued this company at about 50 crores on day one. That valuation has led us to set up a manufacturing, a GMP manufacturing for making the first product, which is already now cleared clinical trials at AIIMS. It is now being set up. 5,000 square feet GMP is being set up for both these products. It's already set up. We are going to get it inaugurated. Hopefully, we'll call the DGs, ICMR or DG, DBT secretary, somebody to come and inaugurate that facility to show the country that look, there are technologies that are existing in our labs that can move to the market, be manufactured in India, be run by students and faculty. That's our goal. So, like I said, deep science. So we had a product, we have a project. We got this project through ICMR. ICMR is good enough to file all the patents for you. So they will file in Indian, they will file a PCT, they will file US, Japanese, European. You tell them, they will file them for you, all free of cost. So this became a good advantage to us because now our company has multiple patents, for that product. But remember, when you make a product, you should also see what exists in the market. That's what I'm seeing here in this institute. They know what exists out there and they're trying to make an alternative for that, indigenous version for that. We looked at the what exists there, went ahead and looked at what properties you need and started working towards it. Now, you have to get a patent around this because if you don't, then people like Stryker, people like Smith & Nephew will kill you on day one. They will not let you survive because it's their patent which is running this product for several years in this country at 15,000 rupees one screw. Can you believe that? Even today. Our technology up there, we can get same screw that Smith & Nephew has in the market at less than 1,000 rupees. How is that possible? And this is in market, I'm saying. I'm not even saying at lab level, at scale, pilot scale, no, in market. You have materials, right? You play around with materials. That's what your expertise is. The only difference being that you have to now start thinking about medical applications. Silk, magnesium oxide nanoparticles, PCl, and you choose materials which will help it degrade. So we've got materials which now helps that degrade over a period of time, gives us patentability because all the other, sorry about that. All the other materials that you see with Smith & Nephew, those are typically HA, PCl, PLA. These are all PLA, PLGA sort of screws. So you have to avoid that material. You start coming out with your own material. Make it stiffer, make it stronger so that it can also be compared to a metal screw. And of course, you set up manufacturing around it. So then you have novelty coming in from not just the materials perspective, but from the application perspective. Once you do that, you can then move forward and now start showing it to investors. I'm not showing you results from this because that's too little, time for me to do that. But shifting gears again, set up our second company about 2 years back called AutoSense. Again, I'm a co-founder in this company. So wherever I'm being shown as co-founder, I'm holding 15, 20, 30, 50% shares in the company, which means that I'm being allowed by IIT Bombay to hold these shares and hold them as a co-founder and a director. So if you put my DIN number out there in the internet, it will come up with all these companies. And I'm allowed legally to do that because IIT Bombay has a startup policy around it. What we did was we also have some advisors. Remember, you cannot do well unless you have the right advisors. You do that with your PhD advisor. So why not do that with a startup? Have advisors who advise you on aspects that you are not familiar with. So we have Professor Nikhil Tandon from AIIMS New Delhi and Mr. Mayur Sardesai, who's a business specialist. He's again an IIT Bombay alumni. So many of the IIT Bombay alumni help us get connected to other IIT Bombay alumni so that they can come on board these companies and help us. What is the product? So we are looking at a third marker for diabetes, and this is spot glucose. We've done that. We've also done the A1C, which is glycosylated hemoglobin. This is glycated albumin. And we've also done that in a small format in which we can take a drop of blood, or we can take, regular blood which is being taken in a pathology lab, spin it down, then use that serum to actually work in such devices, where you will get the glucose binding over the last 3 weeks. Rather than 3 months, now you're looking 3 weeks. Why do you need this? Because many patients who come to Professor Tandon's clinic are having CKD, which is critical kidney disease. They're having anemia. And when you have this, can you correlate hemoglobin to their HbA1c? No, you cannot. So you have to now be dependent on a third market. Japan has commercialized this. Europe has commercialized this. Why not India? So we got a product. We already got grants for this. We've not moved further ahead with valuation of the company. That will happen later. But we have, whenever you make a product, remember you have to also make it simple to use. So that if it goes to a primary healthcare center, nobody has to spend too much time analyzing what needs to be done. They just push some buttons and it gets done. So we do a industrial design for that, and then make a product. Set up a third company, and this is Polytrack. This is the example that Anant was giving. We set up this company in 2 months' time. We are already valued at 100 crores. How did that happen? Because we had products, we had deep science behind technologies that are going to go ahead in the market. So we started looking at lateral flow immunases. Many of you are aware, right? Pregnancy strips have been used over and over again. In the COVID times, you saw these, rapid diagnostic kits, right? All those test kits which can do either antigen or antibody. Use the same principle. Can you now look at different markers using similar lateral flow immunases? We looked at troponin INT. We looked at thyroid markers. All T-check is our thyroid panel, which is T3, T4, TSH. The A1C, because we are doing spot glucose, we are doing 3-week marker. Why not also do the 3-month? And we started thinking of a device around it. So many times when you start looking at all this technology, you have to go end to end. So we've got a beautiful ecosystem in IIT Bombay called BETIC, through which you can do end to end pilot manufacturing. So you start off with whatever exists in your lab, go to them, they will sit down with you, file a CDSC or test license for you, which means that you already have to have a company at that stage. The test license is filed with their site being showed for the test license. That is crucial. Once you do that, then they will make a pilot batch for you. But your assays are yours, right? If your assays don't work, what is the use of the device? So the device part comes later. As it gets tested with the device, you start looking at sensitivity, specificity, positive predictive value, negative predictive, and so on and so forth. So you start looking at accuracy of the device. But once you do that, you have to go through that entire chain of starting with a test license and ending at a manufacturing license. We've done all that. But with these sort of products, where you see what exists in the Indian market and you start looking at alternatives that you're doing for the Indian market, if somebody is interested in putting money, they will see the value they get out of it over a 5-year term, and which is how companies are valued. So we've valued that, we've raised money for the company, and we are already moving ahead. So again, like I said, deep science. Many of this exists in the Indian market. Go and have a look. Go and see what pathology labs are currently doing. Go and see what hospitals are currently doing. How many tests are they doing per day? What are the instruments they use? Then you start looking at how do you even get to making your own. These are simple lateral flow immunases. Remember, these are gold nanoparticle conjugated to antibodies. Gold nanoparticles which are conjugated, put in lines. Those lines are the ones that are telling you the differences in concentration. As the line gets deeper and deeper, you will see a difference in concentration because more and more binding happens on that line. So we've tested it against different sort of markers. Once you do that, you start thinking of a device around it, test it in the device, and make sure that your device also works. We set up a fourth company, and I'm putting numbers up there. So we've set up a company called Hemoflow. Now this is looking at cholesterol, this is looking at lipid assay. So we've got a total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, triglycerides being run with a drop of blood. There's a lot of science behind it. Remember, most pathology labs are still doing with large bulky instruments. There are machines that exist outside India, but they are extremely expensive. You import them. Small reader like that is going to cost you, 15,000, 20,000 rupees. but the test kits are going to cost you 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 rupees. We said we want to take up that challenge, and this was given to me by Professor Padmanabhan in that NASI meeting when I was there. And he said, Rohit, everybody does, glucose, HbA1c, nobody looks at, cardiac markers, nobody looks at, all these lipid profile. Can you do that? I said, I'll take up the challenge, sir. Let me read about it and then I'll come back to you. So I went back to BIRAC and got a grant around it. Now, and of course, this company, day one is valued at $3 million. So about 25 crores with a funding that has come into the company of 1 million. So each one of these companies, we are targeting separate investors, we are targeting separate business reach, but we have to have products that will fulfill what the investor wants. So we went back, looked at the literature, figured out this is something that is existing in every biochemistry book. You don't have to do anything else. The only difference being, how do you put it on a paper strip? Everything you can do in a small solution format. Paper, much more difficult because you have to maintain the pH, you have to maintain humidity, you have to be worried about whether it dries up, whether it starts getting bleached, and so on and so forth. So many things we had to do, lot of work went into, we got a BIRAC grant around it. BIRAC has a terrific scheme of an academic innovation research. Please apply. And this is a 50 lakh grant, but it helps you do this part of the work in your lab, where you have an idea, you have a proof of principle. In solution phase, it is working. Now I want to make a device around it. So I went ahead and did that, made a device, looked at stability of that assay, looked at the device, and the electronics was done in our lab. And then looked at hospital readings. So we have tie-ups with Sion Hospital in Mumbai, with KEM Hospital, with DY Patil, with Max Nanavati, several hospitals in Mumbai, now very recently with many more hospitals that are coming to us. Just look. You now see the differences between what exists in the hospital versus your reader. And at that point, you go back to BIRAC and say that, look, we've got good data. We've got this to work at a lab level, maybe in a hospital clinical setting, at an academic clinical validation stage. Can you now give us money to move forward? And BIRAC did that. So they gave us a CRS grant. This is a contract research scheme grant, where you come back with a company and that company gets the money. So I came in with a student's company, because if you come in with your own company, there's a conflict. So I came in with a student's company and said, I want to set up manufacturing for this. Can I now make these strips? Can I make the assay for that? And can I now make the reader for that? So we have done a pilot batch manufacturing using Betik's facility to make 10 such devices, 1,000 such strips, and test it out in multiple patient samples under a test license. Now we've submitted that data to CDSCO. Once we get our manufacturing license approval, we are good to go, and it's ready to reach the market. So that's where we are at. What else? So I said, enough of these point of care diagnostics, let me look at some other schemes. So we've already been working in microneedles. You know about microneedles. They've been used traditionally to deliver vaccines as well. We thought we'll use it for delivering simple drugs, painkillers, and this is a market that is never ever going to go away, because everybody has pain. Everybody's, after post-COVID has some or the other pain. So we thought we'll set up a company. That's my own PhD graduate from the lab. Set up a company. Initially, we started out with a women entrepreneur. So this is something that I do follow in my lab, and I hope everybody does that. Any women coming into the company, I'll give her 51%. 49 stays with me, 51 with the women. If there are 3 of us, 51 still with the women, and the 49 to be shared between me and the other person. Why do I do that? Because 51 to the women means that she is eligible for all women-led entrepreneur schemes that the government of India has under the National Startup Mission. And if you do that, then it gives them benefit of getting further grants down the line. Even today, she holds 51%. I have diluted my share to 30, but she's at 51. So we made these traditional patches, simple polymeric needles, put drugs in them, and started looking at drug release in animal studies. That's our first goal. Of course, you have to first see whether it works in an animal model, preclinical. We don't have an animal house on campus, so we started collaborating with the Bombay Veterinary College in Parel. We started collaborating with the NCCS in Pune, and so on and so forth. So places where they have animal facilities, we'll go use their facility, do some of the preclinical work, prove that it works, and then come back and ask for funding. So that's where we are at, and I'm pretty sure, I'm 100% sure this is a 100 crore company. But we have to make sure that we do deep science of proving that it actually works. One product will not make a company. So far I've been showing you one product in each company, but we have multiple in every company. Here I wanted to show you more because this is in line with what many of you do in the institute, materials. So we look at chitosan as a material and putting drugs in those chitosan sponges. And this came from a orthopedic surgeon who came to our lab and gave this idea. So again, advice for any of you working in these areas: do collaborate, do talk to clinicians who are working in this area because they know the needs. You can make a product, but tomorrow that product will never be successful because no doctor ever needed that product. We have a product where somebody told us that they want infection control over the next 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks. Pain control over the next 5 days, because pain is first, infection is ongoing. So can you do that? We've actually went ahead and did a lot of work around that. He also said, can you put injectables rather than reopening and reclosing surgery? Can you just have an injectable which can release the drug on a trigger? These are simple things to do. But if you can do them, these are billion-dollar markets. Even today, anywhere in the world, such technologies don't exist. So if you can do that, then there are markets that open up to you, which will always make sense. Microneedles, again a forte for us. We can scale up these microneedles in a very simple process. We have a GMP facility on site, which is donated money by an alumni who set up this GMP facility. We can do all our manufacturing in that GMP facility and take it to humans directly. Don't have to do it in a shared facility in a pharma. No, we can do it in our own facility in IIT Bombay. But what is important is that with one such product, I now have multiple ideas in my head of how to use that product. If I have micro needles, can it now be used for wound closure? Think of it, right? You have a wound, you put these micro needle patches in them. Those are your scaffolds, those are your structures on which cells are going to come and attach, and then tissue formation happens. If I can do that, if I can show that, that itself is a huge thing. So we set up work to do that. We got excellent preclinical results, which means that it has potential to move forward. The small sponge material that I was showing for orthopedic application, can I also use them for maxillofacial application? Nothing exists in the maxillofacial. Imagine this, not even this country, not even the entire world, there is anything that exists like this, which can tackle infection in a maxillofacial region over the next 4 or 5 days. That's what you are given antibiotics for, right? You go get your surgery done, they give you 5-day antibiotic course. Why? Because they want to stop any infection from happening on site, and typically they will give you a combination of an antibiotic and an antifungal. If you can use those combinations in your material, good to go. And that's what our goal is with many of these technologies. So I'll skip some of these just to show you that we have deep science around it. I just wanted to show some of that. But important thing is that you have to look at degradability of these materials. You have to also look at how long these sponges last in the body, whether they are leading to anything. Then we shifted gears again. There was a student who came to my lab who came from this is a postdoc, came with a PhD in reproductive biology. Now, it's something that I had never worked in. And I said, look, I'm open to ideas. You're coming in. Can we do some product around what you have learned? So you've always done deep science. Can you now translate that deep science to a technology? And she started thinking. We set up a company. Imagine this, we had thought of setting up a company on day one that she came in. I did not even know what work she will do, how that product will move forward. The only thing I knew was a woman coming into my lab holding 51% in that company. I will hold 49. I have a company on the ground. So we set up a company called LifeSeed. Today, do you know that this company has already been valued? It's already raised money and it is doing very well. Why? Because we came out with one product where we knew there is a market. Look, there are these products in the market which can increase sperm motility, which can increase chances of fertilization. This is what happens in vitro fertilization clinics. IVF clinics charge a huge amount of money, and even then it is not successful because the success rates are very low. If we can increase that success rate by working on a gel formulation that can make the sperms hyper activated, then you have more chances of fertilization. So many things I also learned, these are terms that I have learned because somebody was doing them in my lab. So we set up another company and we went ahead, first made the gel, showed that the gel has the right viscosity, right properties, put the drug in the gel, looked at sperm motility in these in the gel, and as soon as we put the drug and the gel, it became more motile. And of course, as you move forward, there could be two models of doing that. You could have them as tubes being given to couples, or they could be given to the IVF clinics. Both could work, and these are business models. But the important thing is you start looking at how do you protect this, how do you move ahead with this. Singapore is extremely interested in this. In fact, you will not believe it, but this company, we are setting up a Singapore version of the company. So we are in that Singapore company because we will be able to now market it in Singapore. Singapore is severely grappling with low fertility rates, and they are thinking ahead of time. India has not come there, but at some point we will all. So if I have done all that, why not digital health? So like somebody said, all of this can be learned, right? Every process is there. All you have to do is start thinking. So we set up another company called Clinicosis. Now this looks at remote healthcare monitoring. If my students can do that with women's health, sitting at somebody can monitor a woman in her pregnancy over the 9 months, or fetal heart rates, remotely. Why not other parameters? So we've got a product now ready to deploy with a funding from a large multinational company that wanted to digitize the ICU. So everything that exists in the ICU, can you bring it to a tablet form? This is a huge area of research. We were able to do that. We have a product around it. We have a copyright around it. So hopefully this product will reach the market in the next 6 months. We've also got panels. We set up another company for looking at panels for anemia. Because if you can do, hemoglobin using conjunctiva of the eye, that is possibly one thing that you can do. Can you also look at ferritin? Can you also look at iron binding? If all of them you can put in one device. And this company, immediately as we floated the idea, we got a grant from IIT Bombay, from alumni funding, to look at a panel for anemia. We've set up another company which is looking at using electric field to push a drug in. So if you can use if you can use transdermal patches which just rely on permeability across the skin, if you use microneedles to push the drug in, can you now use electric field and use sound to push the drug in? So one of them is iontophoresis, the other is sonophoresis. Can you now use these technologies to push the drug in? And we've been able to do that. At least in skin models, we have shown the difference. And you will not believe me, but as soon as we showed the difference in a skin model, and we are looking at rheumatoid arthritis as a model. So you're looking at methotrexate as a drug. Can you now deliver methotrexate for rheumatoid arthritic patients at the push of a button, so that they don't have to take methotrexate in a systemic form? So as soon as we did that, and that's a PhD student in my lab currently doing a PhD, somebody has approached us to put money in the company, and it's already valued. The best part is the moment you have technologies and you have more and more technologies coming into the market, you have more and more people. So we've got silicon microneedles also made, and we've done a product for transdermal drug delivery, for a watch-like device where all your technology sits at the back of a watch-like device. We've got technologies to make silicon microneedles, not just polymeric but hard material, and we've got the technology to put it into a small format. So the format that you see on the right hand side of your screen went through several iterations before it comes to a small form factor where it will have a microneedle at the base, it will have a micro pump in the middle, and it will have a reservoir chamber, and everything can then be delivered. So you're not limited by the volume that the chamber can hold. You can actually in fact have outside material coming in through a process, and we've shown that it works. It can actually give you different patterns. You can program it so that it can also be used for several types of drug delivery. Again, we've got several products in our kitty, so as Professor Anand mentioned, I'm the only person in this country to have filed 250 patents. 90 of those are granted patents. We have another 160, 170 being examined as I speak. But if this 250 patents means at least 200 products, because some of them could be copyrights, trademarks, 200 products, you can't even think of doing all of it in a lifetime. But I have made it a mission that I will put multiple products before I retire from IIT Bombay. I will make multiple companies. This is another one. I have multiple products in this company. One company, a pharma company, is looking at it down south. We've already had 2 discussions with them to raise 100 crores for this company at a valuation of 200 crores. So they will pick 50% in the company, but they will value us at 200 crores on day one. What is difference is we are looking at it from a different perspective. What exists in a hospital, can you do it differently? So we've looked at IV fluid monitoring, we've looked at syringe needle stick injuries. Simple products to look at where we can think of, again, these are all AI generated, but the fact is that there are several problems that you need to tackle. If you can do all that and make a product around it, there's a huge market waiting out there. Look up that. Look up what you can do for this country, because when you do make a product like that, the country stops importing that from the next day. But it has to go through that entire chain of manufacturing. It cannot just be a pilot manufacturing, it has to be full scale manufacturing. So we've got a small device like that called Dripto, which can monitor IV fluids at each bed in this country. If it were my will, I would sell it to every hospital, every bed in the country, so that all it would do is add 100 rupees to a patient's bed cost, but then a patient's relative doesn't have to come near the bed and look at when the bottle becomes empty. A 15,000 rupee device to a 100 rupee device. That's my vision for such products. We are already far ahead. We are doing clinical studies for that. Another futuristic product from our lab. We are setting up a startup around that. Again, many people are interested. We made a AI-enabled spirometer cum nebulizer, a combined spirometer nebulizer. This is a technology, and this is not a concept, it's a prototype which has been tested. We are now making a final version and applying for clinical studies. But the important thing is, if I can make such products, and you see Arnab Ghosh there. Arnab Ghosh joined my lab as a PhD student. He is a medical doctor, MD in internal medicine, joined my lab for a PhD. In 3 years, Arnab and my lab, we filed 50 technology patents. 3 years, 50 patents from one person. If that is what is possible from this country, why not from each one of you? And I encourage everybody to look at patents seriously, because this is what will hold your company together. And that's the moat that people cannot cross. So we've got this, a lot of work went into making this, looking at what parameters you need to measure, so that as you blow into that spirometer, it will assess the lung function and deliver a certain amount of drug. And I can do that remotely. Think of futuristic applications like ours, which is going to grapple with respiratory health over the next 10 years. That China has finally solved, India is just getting into that problem. So think for the future. Got, again, the product is there. We've also got another product in that company where we modified the feeding, non-invasive ventilation mask with a feeding port. Again, nothing like that exists. Imagine that. Our country, even today, when somebody is on a ventilator, you still have to remove that tube, not ventilator, non-invasive ventilation. So not the intrusive one, but you still have to remove that and feed that person using a tube. Can you now attach that tube to the mask? We've done that. We've started pilot manufacturing. Set up another company which is looking at logbook entries. And in some of these companies, I hold small shares, because these are mainly as advisory role, but most of them, the ones that I showed, I hold majority, at least 30 to 50%. Set up another company for Parkinson's disease screening. So look at the possibilities, and this is not where I'm going to stop. I have a vision of setting up at least 25 companies out of IIT Bombay. But that vision has to match with who comes and leads these companies. It cannot be me, it has to be one of you. And that's what I keep saying. A student has to come help us with the company. We've done a lot of technology transfer. This happened 2 years back. Huge product. It's just getting approvals for commercialization, but it was released in the in a very big function in New Delhi with the Honorable Defense Minister. We're testing it on him. We've made a stethoscope. You will say, what's new about that? Well, we have better sound quality, and I can guarantee this to the Littmann stethoscope out there, 3M. It is better sound quality at 1/5 the price. Littmann sells it at 30,000 rupees. Our price range would be 6,000. If I can do that for this country, nobody will buy those, and that's my goal. I make more and more products for this country, and hope that one day I'm able to shift our country to all indigenous products. So went through a lot of iterations. We transferred this technology to a company in Navi Mumbai and went through a lot of iterations. Went through a product launch in New Delhi, a big function in New Delhi, where it was tested. By the way, Arnab Ghosh is a Indian naval officer, so which means that Navy was extremely interested in this. The naval chief, and it was released in a huge function in New Delhi. Huge, again, you can see the Honorable Defense Minister. It being tested out on the Honorable Defense Minister. He's very happy with the sound quality. So with all that, where are we? So we've got an ecosystem. This is some of the stuff that we, along with Betic in IIT Bombay, which is our medical end-to-end product manufacturing facility at IIT Bombay, have been able to do. We've got products for different areas in the body, if you may call them so. Stethoscopes, dental burrs, surgery planner, knee, foot, ankle orthosis device, so on and so forth. Think of the technologies, think of companies around them. Every technology linked to a company that is incubated in IIT Bombay that will move forward with IIT Bombay. We also run a biodesign fellowship. I'm just finishing up in the next 3 minutes. We run a biodesign fellowship in our institute. I am the PI of that program. DBT has generously funded it. We are wanting to scale that up. So at this point, I have these 10 fellows who've joined the program. This is the first year which is ending. We have a 5-year program in which we have to train 12-month fellowship. We have to train 50 fellows, get at least 25 innovative medical products. It is possible, right? Because if I can do that from my lab, I can do 30 products in whatever number of years. I'm sure in 5 years we can have 25 innovative medical products. But you have to go through a need analysis. Remember, biodesign is all about needs. You go through a need analysis, do a internship in a hospital, shadow a particular specialty, doctor, clinician, physician, whoever it is, surgeon, find out needs from that person, filter those needs down to the ones that you want to take forward, which will have biggest impact commercially as well as for the country. Once you do that, you have some technologies coming out of this program, but most importantly, with the success of this program, first year, we have now approached alumni to fund this program. So we've now gone to Stanford University. I have now put in a proposal to train another 20 fellows per year, but at a cost of 100 crores. And the Stanford University faculty, they have now circulated it to alumni. Maybe we'll get a funding, maybe we'll not, but we'll try. So many medical doctors in the program who have all been trained with engineers, with non-medicos, and they have made products out of it. Many of which is already reaching the market, the startup, as you can see. I've already shown you some of those snapshots. But most importantly, some of those, which are very, very interesting products will also get there to the market. And if you can find the right need, then the market for that need or the product will never be wanting from you. Okay? So we do a lot of social projects in our lab. If I can do all the commercial side, I can also do some social side, and I want to keep doing that for the country because it makes the country benefit in some way. So we've picked malnutrition as a focus area in our lab, look at child malnutrition, we look at anemia screening in women, take all our technologies that we've developed in the past, put them in baskets, give them to healthcare workers and ask them to do camps, and then show the data to government. And we've been doing that over the past. We've got a digital scale also for measuring height. And we've been doing that with several of these products from student companies. Many such camps have been held by IIT Bombay with a DBT sponsored center of excellence, with CSR sponsored money, and so on and so forth. But important thing is that we've done it in different places, in Ahmednagar district, in Rajasthan, there is a Churu district which has terrible hemoglobin levels, more than 50% anemic population. And we've done that with several, of our student companies. But most importantly, the impact we are creating. I always talk about impact. So on one hand, I have never shied away from training students. I have always trained the maximum number. Even today, I stand at the maximum number in IIT Bombay. So not just students, because students are the cornerstone of any lab. I train PhDs, I train masters, I have staff in my lab, but I also train interns. I train interns who are students from other colleges, and this is something that is very close to my heart. I come from a non-IIT background, never set foot in an IIT till I came to IIT Bombay as a faculty. So I have that passion in me to train non-IIT students. Any non-IIT student, I'll never say no. They come to our lab, more than 300 now trained, but these come to our lab, work on projects. Many of them get joint patents, and names on the patents, applications. Train a lot of innovators from our lab, lot of medtech companies. Most importantly, we file patents, get them commercialized. And we have products, and we have impact on patients. If you can do all that from one lab, imagine if I can make that number of labs to be 1000. See, 700 faculty in IIT Bombay itself. Imagine 25 other IITs. Imagine all the other CSIR institutes. Imagine all the other NITs. Imagine all the other ICERs. And imagine the number of people in this country. If each one of us can do a fraction of what we've done, India will not have to think back. And this is my vision for a Viksit Bharat. Hopefully we will reach there. But if we do, then we have to thank a lot of people for that. And we get a lot of awards and recognitions. The government has always rewarded people who work hard. And I'm proud that today Professor Anant got the Vigyan Shri because of the work that he's done, because of the impact he's created. Same goes for our lab. We get the awards because of the work we do. And just because they pick you up out of those 1,000 applications, under 50 who have made impacts. This is the kind of country that I'm proud of. And I hope that I can continue working for India, for people who come to visit us, who see us, and who benefit us. Got funding not just from India but from foreign agencies. Welcome Trust UK, Grand Challenges Canada, Gates Foundation, name the agency, we've got a funding. Why? Because we are also globally known. And if you can be nationally known, you should also be globally known. You should be named with Bob Langer. That's my vision. If today I see Robert Langer from MIT as being the #1 patent holder in the world, 1500 patents. If I can get to 500 by the end of my career, I'll consider myself, at least a fraction of what Bob Langer did for the US, for the world. We'll do it for India. Many companies come to us, and we do a lot of consulting for companies. We do a lot of work with companies, but we work together to make that one product for India. That is what your vision should be. Even if you go out of the country, please come back and serve India. That's what we have done. That's what I encourage each one of my students to do. Finally, let me thank my mentors. I'm not here nowhere in this country without mentors like these. The government of India has, of course, been very supportive, but so have been these mentors. Professor Padmanabhan from IISc Bangalore, Dr. Manju Sharma, who we lost last year. Very, very sad for me because she was like a mother figure to me. And Dr. Renu Swarup, who was the former Secretary DBT. I think she has a vision for this country that is unparalleled. And all three of them, and there are others who have made impacts in others' lives. These are the three who have made impact in my lives. All my faculty members, my collaborators, my students, startups, everybody, let me thank them. And with that, let me close this and thank all of you for listening patiently for what I have done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful presentation. Moving forward, while words cannot express our gratitude to our distinguished chief guest for taking time from his busy schedule and gracing this occasion, we request your director, Dr. C. Anandaramakrishnan, to honor Professor Rohit Srivastava with a token of our gratitude and appreciation. Thank you, sir. Let me now invite Dr. Joshi Joseph, Senior Principal Scientist and Coordinator of today's program, for the formal vote of thanks.
Respected Director, CSIR-NIIST, Dr. C. Anandaramakrishnan, Chief Guest of today's National Science Day celebrations, Professor Rohit Srivastava, Head of Human Resources and Academic Division, Dr. U.S. Harish, senior colleagues, staff and students of CSIR-NIIST, visiting students and teachers, good afternoon. Today, we are celebrating science at CSIR-NIIST with a variety of programs. On this open day, we have more than 600 students and teachers visiting our R&D and instrumentation facilities. The purpose of this event is to inspire young adults to appreciate the importance of innovation and leadership in science. On behalf of CSIR-NIIST, it is my pleasure and privilege to propose the vote of thanks for today's National Science Day celebrations. First and foremost, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our esteemed Chief Guest, Professor Rohit Srivastava, Himanshu Patel, Chair Professor at IIT Mumbai, for taking the time to grace this occasion and for delivering such an insightful National Science Day lecture. I extend heartfelt thanks to our respected Director, Dr. C. Anandaramakrishnan, for his unwavering support in making this day's celebration so grand. Sir, your vision and leadership continue to guide us and inspire us in all scientific endeavors at CSIR-NIIST. Thank you, sir. Our Human Resources and Academic Division and JIGYASA has worked closely with the entire staff and students of CSIR-NIIST to organize the student visits as part of today's celebrations. A sincere thanks to Dr. U.S. Harish, Head of HRID, for his wholehearted support and leadership. Thank you, Harish. I also would like to thank Dr. K.N. Narayan, Head Center for Sustainable Energy Technologies, for handling the energy literacy training sessions as part of today's celebrations. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the heads of all scientific and administrative divisions and the entire staff and students of CSIR-NIIST for this function. Your support and active participation make this celebration all the more meaningful. A big thank you to the JIGYASA and HRID team and the student volunteers who have worked tirelessly to make this open day a success. Your efforts in guiding students through our facilities and making science accessible to young minds are truly appreciated. Finally, I would like to extend my gratitude to the members of Director's Secretariat and S&T Unit for handling the invitations for the day, ESU team led by Engineer Rajiv for the auditorium and guest house arrangements, the KRC team led by Shrimoni for the audio-visual arrangements, HLS team led by Mr. Robert Philip and Mrs. Deepa for their general assistance, and the canteen committee for all their support. Your behind-the-scenes efforts allow us all to focus on celebrating science. Thank you one and all for being a part of this wonderful celebration. Let us continue to inspire and be inspired by science. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. That brings us to the end of today's program. We believe that it was indeed befitting to have you all with us today. Have a good afternoon and goodbye. Please rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तव जय गाथा। जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे, जय 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 हे।